So, week 3 of a season of being. The first page in this chapter, it says, in this chapter you will read about how the bees put together their hive, their exquisitely ordered home, which functions as a living body of the being, which is the hive. You'll learn the significance of scent, sound, comb construction, and touch, the function of propolis, and how the bees protect and defend the hive. Disruption in any one of these areas could cause the colony to fail. When everything is done, the colony expands and thrives. The air around an exuberantly joyful hive shimmers with the blissfulness that emanates from the hive. And so today is the day of the Song of Communion, being in communion. And I love this idea of comparing the concept of a beehive to any community, whether it's family, the community of work, your community of where you live, spiritual community, because it means to come together. Com means together, and unus, which is the Latin root of community, is union and oneness. So the reason that we come here together, you may think it's that you come to be spiritually fed and to meet, see your friends, your spiritual friends, but it's bigger than that. We come together because we are here because of the vision. And our vision is to be love in action. Does that happen perfectly? No, of course not. That's the whole idea of a vision. You have a vision, which is your biggest idea for your life, and that will be your North Star. That's the direction that you're moving into. But it may not be perfect yet, but it's in those areas where we don't yet experience perfection that we are awakening as spiritual beings. And being in communion, we get to do it together, whether it's overt or covert. And so the other day I had this image because we had a few really full, busy days. And I think it was Tuesday when about 10 of you were just buzzing in and out, and there was lots of activity happening. And I had this image of it being recorded on a video and then played back at high speed. And what I saw was just this pollination happening. You know, people seeing each other and being happy and kissing and hugging each other and smiling and laughing and just being happy to be in service. It's very rare, and you can only imagine what it's like for Connie and me. It's very rare that we're here and something goes wrong, or there's conflict or an argument, or people bump into each other or are mad at each other. That's very, very rare. So you can imagine what it feels like to be here almost every day for 26 years. It's kind of a bubble, but it's a really nice bubble because I fill up on that. And I was reading this wonderful quote by Yehuda Berg, who's a well-known Kabbalah teacher. He says, humanity is our ultimate community, and everyone plays a critical role. Humanity is our ultimate community, and everyone plays a critical role. So the question for each of us is, what is my vision for humanity, and how am I serving that vision? How am I living that vision? Because if you think that this is all about you, you're missing the boat. Not only that, you're making a contribution to narcissism, selfishness, self-absorbedness, which is one thing we tend to complain about, right? Because it's no longer about the individual. It's no longer me, it's now we. The we energy that Gail talked about a while ago. And so the blueprint then is what we need to hold. What do you hold, and this is just for you to think about, not to say out loud, what do you hold for humanity? And how does that serve the manifestation of that vision, or does it block it? And so we want to infuse that with love and compassion because that's needed the most, because if we get judgmental or critical or negative about it, it just makes it worse, right? So we want to remember to bring that vision in the highest and best way. So for some of you, that may be bees. For some of you, that may be child abuse. For some of you, that may be the environment. For some of you, that might be peace in the world. Whatever it is for you, that's a vision that's important to hold in front of you. And then as you do your spiritual work, it's to dissolve whatever is blocking that, whatever is in the way, and only you know what that is. You know what that is when you don't feel good, when you're suffering and struggling. Because that's just there to awaken you to live the greater vision, to free yourself of that which is impeding the greater vision. And so the hive is incredibly complex. How many of you are reading this book? A few of you. So when if you read that book, you will really understand the complexity of how the hive works. But because bees have no ego, it works. And it works with divine precision, with divine perfection. And so we get to learn from that. We can think of them as spiritual teachers. Because humanity is just as complex. You know, I remember when I was online on a matchmaking dating site. I forget even what it's called. And one of the things I wrote in my profile was delightfully complex. Because I really think of myself as pretty complex. And so the complexity is something that can be embraced. It's true for all of us. When we don't embrace it, when we judge it, when we criticize it, then how can we evolve? And so the complexity is everywhere present. But the invitation is for us in consciousness to go high with that or to go low with that, knowing that there are going to be results. The beauty of the message of the bees is that they only see and experience divine perfection. So that's one thing that we can learn from the bees, is to say, how can I seek out divine perfection? Even in the things that are really difficult. Even in the things that are happening on our planet that are disturbing me. Because it's just an invitation to look deeper and to contribute your higher consciousness, your higher vision. So Jacqueline Freeman goes into that in his book in a very beautiful, mystical way by using the message of bees. She talks about when you go close to the hive, you step into an energy field that is very mystical. I can't wait to experience it. I'm going to seek it out this summer. And so when we look at that for ourselves, we know that you step into an energy field when you go somewhere. If you go to a peace rally, you might have a different experience than when you go to an insight monastery to learn about meditation. When you walk into a family conflict, you're going to have a different experience of the energy field than when you're making love with your beloved. When you walk into this room, you might have a completely different experience than when you walk into, I don't know, my mind just drew a blank. Grand Central Station. Thank you so much. So the energy field is not something that you just that you step into, but it's also that you bring. That's why when you walk into a room, people can feel your energy. So it's an energy field that you bring, but that you step into. So the more conscious you are of the energy field that you step into, the more conscious you can be of the energy that you bring. We have a tendency to be overly self-focused, so we look for something when we step into a space, instead of really thinking about what am I bringing to this in a conscious way, right? So it's both. So this is a wonderful little story that Jacqueline tells about the energy field of the bees. Recently, I read a scientist article about bees in which the author said that bees simply don't have a big enough brain to do all the things they do and do them so well. Yet they still do all of these things. Science doesn't yet understand their unified intelligence. This brings me to my tale of gymnastic bees. I've been in and out of hives hundreds, maybe thousands of times. Usually I have a reasonable expectation of what I'm going to see, but sometimes the bees surprise me completely. I had just hived a swarm, and a week later I thought I'd peek in to see how they were doing. I opened the hive and removed a few top bars. Lo and behold, I saw a secret acrobatic performance. A few hundred bees were latched, arm to leg, hanging down from one of the bars in an amber-collared veil. They were suspended there, about 50 bees across and 25 bees down, strung like jewels in an intricate necklace of sequenced layers. Each bee held with her foreleg the hind leg of the bee above, and all of them were in matching rows. I was dumbfounded. What were they doing? They were using their bodies to measure the placement of the comb. These draftsman bees would then convey a mental picture of the completed comb, including the height, length, width, and patterns, to the maidens who would construct it. The hive's shared consciousness is what allows the bees to use this system of measurement and construction to create the comb. Amazing. And we can't have peace in this world. What the hell? I get emotional from this. It's like the simplicity that is everywhere present, and we walk around like idiots, getting dumbed down by our world, by politics, by the environment. We're falling asleep. We're forgetting who and what we are, and the miraculousness of every breath and every heartbeat. And so, in relationship to the energy field, there are many ways how we step into or how we step from our own energy field. But I think there's three basic ones. There is the one where it's all stirred up. You walk into an energy field with your own stirred upness, or you walk into an energy field that is all stirred up. That is really just about everywhere you go. And so it behooves us to pay attention so that if we step into an energy field that is stirred up, we remember to be peace personified and bring that consciousness to create a different experience. If we are stirred up, we know what we need to do to get to a place of centeredness. And if you don't know, then maybe you're not in the right place. Because we all know that at a deep level. It's inherent in us. And then there's the one that's fractured, which means that we believe in separation. Him, her versus her, this versus that, Republican versus, what's the other one? Democrat. Liberal versus, what's the other one? Black, white. We live into this place where we see separation. And the more we see separation, the more we create separation in the world. We have to get that. It's critical at the moment. And so the next one is to be unified, which means that you're in a state of surrender. You know that spirit in you, as you, is you, and you walk into every environment where you go with that awareness. You've heard me share my gas station stories, where I make friends with the guy who pumps the gas, usually a guy, sometimes a woman. Yesterday I went to the car wash. I love my guys. I just love my guys. I come in and I just love them up. I hug the guy that tells me how to put my wheels, and I'm nervous every single time. And so now I hug him, and there's one guy that's there, and he always kind of goes, like this, and I just love him so much. And I was all dressed up because I did a funeral, and I was in my Tahari suit with heels and my hair done up. And that's pretty rare. I usually look like a slug when I go to the car wash. And Luis says, "Oh, you look nice." I said, he said, "You work today?" I said, "Yes, I did a memorial service." He says, "Oh, good work, good work." And the guy that's usually vacuuming my car, he says, "You are the sister of Jesus." And I said, "No, no, 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 no." He says, "Yes, yes, yes." I said, "No, I'm the daughter." And he said, "Oh, my God." I love my guys. I go by there and I wave. They probably don't even see me because they're so busy working, but I love them. And so on Thursday, we had a wonderful workshop with Reverend Della Menachella. I'm so sorry I don't get to announce her anymore because I just love to say her name, Reverend Della Menachella. Isn't that a great name? Some of us were there, right? And she did this wonderful workshop on how to manifest. So I'm going to use some of her ideas because the big thing that she says, what you think about, you bring about. What you think about, you bring about. Pay attention to what you're thinking about, exactly, as within, so without. Not with fear, "Oh my God, I just had a negative thought, I'm doomed, I'm going to hell." No, just notice it and shift it in that moment. And so we have to pay attention to when we are more committed to our problems and our complaints and our worries and our fears and our anxieties than our greater vision for the world, than our greater vision for ourselves. Than being the instrument of divine love, which is what we are, right? So we have to pay attention to that. We have to pay attention to when we're more focused on what we don't want than what we do want, and we all do that to some degree or other. People focus on what they don't want. "Oh, I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be broke, I don't want to be single, I don't want to be lonely, I don't want to be blah, blah, blah." So the more we focus on that, the more that becomes our experience. So that becomes an opportunity to be aware and say, let me focus on what I do want. Those of you that are in Prosperity Plus, you know. Notice where you're stuck. Some of you have been stuck for a very long time in a certain issue, a certain problem. I know this because you talk about it all the time. You bring it up every chance you get. Your sad childhood, your illness from the past, your tragedies. And I'm not just making fun of it because I got my own share. You should know, oh my God. But we don't want to live there. We don't want to be stuck in that because the more you talk about it, the more stuck you are in it, the more you keep repeating that experience, and it's like a magnet. You keep drawing it in. It's like pollen sticks to your wings. You fly around with it and you wonder why there's so much misery. Right? So we want to pay attention to that. So either decide to stay stuck and just not bother, or transform it. Look what's on the other side, what's possible. The other thing is that's really, really dangerous, I think, or harmful, I should say, mostly to our soul, is when we're trying to let me get more money, get a better relationship, get better, get somewhere, but not here, not this. It's about get. It's kind of like the consciousness where we live in. The consciousness of consumerism and greed seeps into our spirituality, and we want to get stuff. Instead of really knowing that it's as we give, we receive. So to free ourselves of those blocks and those limitations and open our hearts to what wants to be lived, our greater vision. So the whole idea of communion then is about healing. Communion is about healing. Union is about healing. And when we remember that we're all connected, then we get to surrender to the connection of divine perfection. Antonio Machado, who was a Spanish poet, said, "Last night, as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that I had a beehive here inside my heart. And the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey from my old failures." We are here as individualized expressions of the One, to be of service. Our service is our gift to the world. Our service is our awareness that divine perfection is within us, and it's here to be spread far and wide. We're here to see the divine perfection in everyone, everything, everywhere, all the time. Is that possible? Do you believe it's possible?
Yes.
If you don't, it's okay. Because there are some areas where I don't yet believe it's possible. Let me just be honest. That's where I have to do my work. That's where I have to transform my consciousness. If people say to me, I don't have time to treat, pray, meditate, you don't have time not to. Because that's where my spiritual work goes every single day for at least an hour. Because we're here to remember that the me is the we. That we have to have more compassion for what's happening in the world, not just the stuff we like. Because the stuff we don't like is really our growing edge. And then we have to be the instruments of unconditional love. Not conditional, unconditional love. And have a greater vision. And so, that's why we're here. That's why we're alive. To hold that vision for a greater idea for the world, for everyone, including ourselves, and to live that in greater yet greater ways, which then shows us the healing work that needs to be done. And the beauty is we believe in healing. Anything and everything.